Hello, my beautiful friends. So it is my birthday this month. I turn 32 years old on October 26th. So in this video today, I'm giving you 32 book recommendations. These are 32 of some of my all-time favorite books. I had such a hard time figuring out which 32 to show because although I am a hater, there are so many books that I absolutely love, and like there were so many books that I was like, oh my god, I love this book, but I didn't include it into the 32 because the 32 that I picked, I wanted them to be books that kind of stuck with me since reading them, books that I remember, books that made an impact on me, just books that kind of changed my brain chemistry in a way, changed the way I read books, the types of books that I like to read, and books that kind of made me who I am as a person at 32 years old. So I'm kind of breaking this video up in multiple parts. So the first part is kind of like literary fiction, sad books, sort of like general fiction. Then I have more like transgressive and satirical books. Then I have more like older classics. And then I have 4 nonfiction books that I want to talk about at the end. So let's get started with literary fiction. Some of these books will not surprise you. I've talked about them a lot on my channel. Other books I haven't talked about in a really long time, so you're kind of getting a mixture of some different books. But let's first talk about one that I've talked about a lot, and that is The Pisces by Melissa Broder. This is a book about romantic obsession. A woman after a breakup starts going down a downward spiral because she's addicted to love and sex and feeling wanted and filling a void within herself, and she becomes obsessed with a merman and things go downhill from there. Don't read this book if you can't handle animal cruelty. I thought this was just so deeply relatable because I'm mentally ill, and stunning. Love this one. I don't want to yap too much because I'm going to be here a while otherwise. Let's kind of go on that same theme with like romantic obsession. Acts of Desperation by Megan Nolan. This is about a woman who falls in love with this man and their relationship ends up becoming like very toxic, but she is addicted and obsessed with wanting his attention and validation, and it just sends her on a downward spiral. Another one that just depicts romantic obsession really well, and I thought the writing in this one was very beautiful, and again, I may or may not relate, okay? The Days of Abandonment by Elena Ferrante. This is a translated work about a woman who is abandoned by her husband. He leaves her and she has to live alone for the first time with her 2 children and German Shepherd. And it's her going, listen, there's a theme here. It's her entering a downward spiral, being alone for the first time in her life and kind of navigating this grief and abandonment. Again, this is another one. Please don't read this if you can't handle animal cruelty. This one was so beautifully done, really well written, and just so deeply, deeply sad. Oh, and she has to live alone with ants too, so another one I felt personally. Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter. This one is about a woman's depression and toxic work environment and family issues. We're following this woman. She moves from Pennsylvania to California to start up a new job. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. And we're really just following her as she describes her depression as a black hole. This one, so beautifully done, very well written, and just gut-wrenching. This book gutted me, and I loved it. Similar theme to that one, My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Oteza Moshfegh. We are following a woman who's depressed again, and she decides she wants to sleep for an entire year. So she has her friend, she arranges to have her friend like feed her pills so she can sleep for an entire year. It's her navigating her friendship with this other woman. She is just a mean, evil bitch. She is so unlikable, but so relatable in a deeply human way, where I was like, oh my god, am I a bitch too? Boy Parts by Eliza Clark. This is about a photographer. She photographs unconventionally attractive men, and she's going through her photos for this art gallery. We start learning about her and her relationships with these men. It's very like funny and satirical, but very sad at the same time, very character focused. And I just ended up adoring this one and where it ended up going. I felt so many emotions reading this, and it was truly a gem, and I adore this book. Play It As It Lays by Joan Didion. This is about a movie star in 1960s California. She's in a relationship with this popular, famous director, and we're literally just following her mental breakdown. All these terrible things keep happening in her life, and we see how numb and detached she is from it all, and it's written in a way that's very numb and detached, and that's why I connected to it. I just loved following this woman through Joan Didion's writing. I don't know, it was so well done, so beautifully written, and really was one of the books that made me start reading these more like detached in tone books. Similar to Bret Easton Ellis in that way. I adore this one. My Dark Vanessa by Kate Alice Russell. Oh my god, I just made up this woman's name. My Dark Vanessa by Kate Elizabeth Russell. This is about a girl who was groomed by her teacher. She was in a sexual relationship with her teacher. And now many years later, she's looking back at this situation and realizing that it was abuse. And it's kind of like the start of the Me Too movement. And now, you know, all these years later, she's looking back at the past events that happened when she was underage. And it really just shed a light on abusive relationships and trauma in general, and how a lot of times like things happen to you and you don't realize it until much later on in life. I really loved the way that this one was done, the way that it was written. Very like disgusting and disturbing, but had so much to say. Just a very impactful book. Hello, The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is dark academia. We're following this student named Richard. He's middle class. He gets accepted into this prestige college studying the classics, and him and his classmates kill a boy in their class. Like page 1. And so now we're backtracking, we're learning about these students, this professor, and what made them kill this boy. We're learning about these rich students through the eyes of Richard, and this just is such immaculate writing, such great character development, great character study. I ate this one up. I cried at the end. Like, the hype is real with this one. And then my last sort of literary fiction book, of course, is A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. This is like the first sad literary fiction book that I read, and for that reason it kind of changed my life, because it made me realize that I love sad literary fiction books. And if you don't know about this one, we're following a boy named Jude and how he is kind of the one that holds his friend group together. So we're learning about him and his friends and all of the horrible, tragic things that Jude has gone through in his life and continues to go through. It's very heavy on the topic of abuse. It's why a lot of people can't read this book. But it's just so deeply sad and disturbing, but so well written, so well done, and I really would love to reread this one day. Like, this just had such an impact on me. It took me forever to get through it because I could not stop sobbing. I adored this one. I felt like these characters were real. And let's move into some more transgressive satirical books. Listen, it's not a Meg video without talking about Bret Easton Ellis, so let's just get it out of the way. American Psycho is my favorite book of all time. Satirical book about a serial killer named Patrick Bateman. Rich guy, works on Wall Street, following his descent into madness, okay? Satire looking at, oh my gosh, there's a hair that just flew in my face. Satire looking at materialism, capitalism, consumerism, rich white guy getting away with literally everything that he wants. What's there not to love? Also, one of the funniest books I've ever read in my life. Less Than Zero by Bret Easton Ellis. This is his first book. We're following Clay as he's a teenager, kind of drifting through life, partying and doing drugs with his friends, and everyone in LA finds it difficult to connect. What's the first line of this book? People are afraid to merge. I should have it memorized by now. People are afraid to merge on the freeways of Los Angeles. People are afraid to merge and connect with one another. It's a very detached book and really just shows alienation and loneliness. It's very dark and unsettling. It goes into dark places in the end. Obsessed. This one, like I said about Play It As It Lays, like that kind of set the tone for me, and this one, I read them back to back. So this one and Play It As It Lays kind of set the tone for me loving these like detached sort of books about alienation. Love it. And listen, I could have included every single Bret Easton Ellis book for this video, but I chose to save you. I only did 3. The other one is The Shards. I wanted to pick this one because it's so different from those other 2, and we are following a fictionalized version of Bret in high school. He's navigating life with his friends. There's a serial killer on the loose. He thinks this new boy at school is the serial killer. He's going in a downward spiral. It's sort of like a very slow burn coming of age story / psychological thriller, because he's trying to figure out like who the serial killer is. It goes into crazy territory in the end. Some of the most well done, well-crafted writing I've ever read in my life. The places that this goes, the mystery, I ate this up. I spiraled reading this book, and for that reason, it earns a place in my 32. Delivery Man by Joe McGinnis Jr. I'm gonna keep pushing this book onto you. Very similar to Bret Easton Ellis, okay? So this one, we're following this guy. He is in a long distance relationship. He's gone through a lot of trauma in his life. His childhood best friend is this girl who's like running a sketchy teenage call girl business, and he's kind of like her accomplice. He helps her out. He's in love with her. But like I said, he's also in this complicated long distance relationship. And so we're kind of just following him as we learn about some of the things that happened in his past, his relationship with this woman. He's helping run this sketchy business, and it's just very deeply sad. And again, kind of touches on that theme of loneliness and alienation and teenagers that kind of grew up too fast, burned out, and now they're adults and they're just a hot mess. It's very unsettling and depressing. Kind of a similar theme, Bright Lights, Big City by Jay McInerney. This is about a guy in 80s New York. He goes out to nightclubs with his friends. He does cocaine. He's a coke addict. And we're just following his day-to-day. We're following this guy's life at his shitty job and his failed marriage and his grief and all these problems that he has going on. And it's just another book showing just kind of alienation, loneliness, sadness, and just the day-to-day shit that we put up with as adults, and kind of what happens when you just give up. When you just give up on it all. I love this book. Another one that's satirical but very sad. Rejection by Tony Tulathamoody, a satirical book featuring short stories about people who are afraid of rejection, millennial internet culture, and just the virtue signaling that goes on a daily basis online and how that virtue signaling is harmful. My favorite book that I've read so far this year, had such a lasting impact on me. I love it. Along the Path of Torment by Chandler Morrison, we are following this guy who works for his uncle. His uncle is this big like business media mogul, and he runs a child prostitution ring, and our main character gets involved in this, and it's kind of him dealing with the moral aspects, the moral dilemma of that, and navigating having cancer and navigating having feelings for this girl. A lot of questionable behavior, very unlikable character that you can't help but root for in a way. This one is deeply disturbing, has a lot to say about trauma, and really just made me think in the end. I love the way that this book ended, and it's kind of just one of those books that made me, this was the start of my reading taste changing and leaning into these darker, more satirical books opposed to things like horror. So that's why I picked this one. Sluts by Dennis Cooper. I have same reason, same reasoning. I picked this one. Oh my god, am I losing my mind? The same reason I had for this one is why I picked this one, okay? This is another transgressive fiction book about a guy named Brad. He's a sex worker, and he's on this website. There's a website where people go on to review sex workers, escorts, and so we're reading reviews from the web about this guy named Brad. But the thing is, we don't know if Brad is real. We don't know if these things are true. We don't know what's real and what's not real. And the point is that this is the internet. We don't know what's real, what's not real. And it's a dark, disturbing, fucked up thought and fucked up place. And this book is very disturbing and graphic. I ate this one up. I'm still spiraling about it to this day, like 2 years later. Last for this category, I picked Invisible Monsters by Chuck Palahniuk. We are following this woman who's a fashion model. She gets shot in the face and is disfigured after that. And so she ends up coming across this trans woman named Brandy, who kind of takes her on adventures and teaches her to live in the moment. There are twists and turns. It's told in a very fragmented way where you are literally jumping all over the place. All the events that happen in this book are out of chronological order, so you are literally jumping all over, and he will say jump to when, jump to when, jump to when. It's scattered all over the place. I don't know, it kept me guessing, it kept me engaged. I've never read anything else like this, and it holds a special place in my heart. And let's move into my classics that I'm obsessed with and adore. So let's start with my man. My man, everyone knows, my man is Franz Kafka. I have the Metamorphosis over here, of course, about a guy who wakes up and is transformed into a giant beetle, and his first thought is, oh my god, I'm gonna be late for work. We see the way that his family treats him. We see how when you are unable to work, when you are unable to provide, people don't see you as useful. Such great chronic illness rep, such great mental health rep. This one really stuck with me because of how relatable this metaphor was. I mean, holds a special place in my heart, as well as this one here, Letters to Melina by Kafka. This is nonfiction. These are a collection of letters that he wrote to a woman named Melina, who he was in love with. She was his translator. It was like this long distance thing. They only met a handful of times, and every day he wrote a letter to her. And so this is the collection, and it was just so sad and really just showed his loneliness and his sadness and his disorganized attachment, and really just shows like the things that hold you together as a person. Like his purpose was literally waking up and writing a letter and receiving a letter from Melina every single day, and like that was the thing that kept him going. And it's the little moments in our lives and the people that we meet along the way that really make an impact on us. White Nights by Dostoevsky. This is a little teeny tiny novella about a guy who meets a girl on a park bench and they talk and he falls in love with her, and it's unrequited love. She's in love with someone else, and that's this book. It's very sad. It's about unrequited love, obviously, but also yearning and dreaming, and I don't know, I love this. Like, he was insufferable, but it was just so, it was so relatable and just so gut-wrenching. I cried my eyes out reading this book. A Stranger by Albert Camus. Of course, The Stranger. Of course this is in here. This is about a man who is an absurdist. He believes that life has no meaning. We just gotta roll with it. He's just very void of emotions. He's like, my mom died yesterday or today, I don't know. He kills a man on a beach. He goes to trial, and everyone in the courtroom is so fascinated at this guy's attitude and how he chooses to live his life. I love the ending to this one. I love the overall message and meaning and theme. This is one that like they made people read in high school and everyone was like, what the hell? Like, why am I reading this? But then as an adult, you're like, I get it. It tracks. Speaking of reading in school, 1984 by George Orwell. This is about a guy who lives in this totalitarian universe, and he works for the Ministry of Truth, so his job is to literally rewrite the past. They have Big Brother watching everyone, and this was kind of like George Orwell trying to predict the future of what he thought like society would look like. Very sad book, very depressing book, but I read this in high school. Haven't stopped thinking about it ever since. Literally, I felt like it changed my brain chemistry at the time. And I was like, you know what? I love sad, depressing books. Another sad and depressing one, of course, Of Mice and Men by John Steinbeck. Two friends working together to save up money to live the American dream. One guy kind of watches over the other guy who's mentally challenged. A lot of moral aspects pop up in this book. Very dark, depressing, bleak, and haven't stopped crying about it since. Another dark, depressing one is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai. This is about a man. We're kind of following him throughout his life from high school till now. He kind of becomes a clown to fit in. He becomes funny. He always feels like he doesn't fit in with society or with others. He has a lot of social anxiety, a lot of anxiety in general, depression, and we start following him throughout his life, dealing with addiction and suicide. It's just, it's very, 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 very depressing and sad, and highly recommend if you're able to tolerate something like this. This was basically his suicide note, and he ended up doing that after writing this book. It was very like semi-autobiographical. An Apprenticeship or the Book of Pleasures by Clarice Lispector. This is about a woman navigating a little situationship with a man who is a professor at the college. He's a philosophy professor, and she's dealing with like a lot of anxiety, a lot of mental health struggles, fear of everything, of commitment, of abandonment, of really just living her life. And he's trying to teach her that like she can't be in a relationship until she's able to love herself and look after herself first. And I really, really loved Clarice Lispector's writing in this book so beautiful. It's like she dives into your soul and just pulls out all your darkest, deepest thoughts and puts them into coherent sentences. You have to just like experience the writing of this one. It's so good. The Princess of 72nd Street. This is about a woman who is bipolar, and so when she is going through periods of mania, she feels as though she's a princess on 72nd Street in New York. So we're learning about her relationships with men and kind of how they view her mental health and deal with her mental health. Lots of commentary about mental health in general, and specifically women's mental health and how she's treated in comparison to the men in her life who also deal with mental health struggles. Really great book, written in the 70s. Just a really great, impactful book. I loved it. Then I have 4 nonfiction books here that I wanted to talk about because I'm literally, dog hair is flying everywhere. I'm sorry. I have a husky German Shepherd. 4 books here that I don't get to talk about nonfiction a ton on my channel. I probably should start, but I have 2 here that really, really made an impact on me regarding my endometriosis, which if you're watching this video, that means I probably had my surgery, my 4th surgery. And the book that actually made me realize I have endometriosis is called Vagina Problems by Laura Parker. This is her memoir about endometriosis. I read this book because I had suspicions many years ago. I was like, I think what I'm dealing with is endo, and I came across her online. She's a writer for BuzzFeed. And I like really related to her articles. I really related to her Instagram. And so I picked up her memoir and I was like, this is it. Like, I have endometriosis. So I highly, highly recommend, if you have suspicions, check this book out. And then one that is just really great, involving medical research and studies. This one is called Bleed: Destroying Myths and Misogyny in Endometriosis Care by Tracy Lindman. This is talking about women's healthcare as a whole and how horrible women's healthcare is compared to, you know, health conditions that impact men. Talks about the misogyny in healthcare and just overall looks at women's issues in a very clinical way. There's a lot of studies in this book, a lot of just evidence and stories and things that made me very angry. So keep that in mind, but a very eye-opening book. And also, you know, touches on things like racism, classism, ageism, transphobia, fat phobia, like literally everything that you could possibly imagine in terms of healthcare. And yeah, this book made me rage, to say the least, but very eye-opening, really great discussion. Hopefully, like, it's like nice that these books exist, but I'm like, are they making a difference? Because look at where we are. Anyways, I digress. And then I have 2 memoirs here that are my favorite memoirs, I think. The first one is Down the Drain by Julia Fox. I talk about this book all the time. It's Julia Fox's memoir about her crazy, insane life, her addictions, and her job as a dominatrix. And she was just so real and honest and vulnerable in this book, which I loved and appreciate. And it was hilarious, but sad at the same time. I love Julia Fox. And then last but not least, I have Paris Hilton's memoir. This is about, of course, like her entire life, but a large chunk of it is about the sketchy, fucked up boarding school that she was sent to that was abusing children. This is another just like real, honest, vulnerable memoir. Like, she really laid it all out there. I felt kind of seen reading this book. I felt, I don't know, like I understood Paris Hilton on a whole new level after reading this book. I think she is brilliant. I think she's a brilliant businesswoman. I think she's smart. Like, she's so smart, and no one gives her that credit. I absolutely adore this book. fantastic and ended up being one of my favorite memoirs that touched my heart. So those were 32 books that kind of made me the reader that I am, 32 books that impacted me, that I think about literally all the time. Like, you will have to pry these books from my cold, dead hands when I drop dead, okay? Like, these books will be buried with me in my casket, okay? This is my will, and I want them all with me, okay? So hopefully you got some book recommendations from this video. Let me know a book that you want buried with you in your casket. Leave it in the comments down below. I love you guys, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.